I want to talk about another episode of another show from our childhood. This time I'm talking about The Wonder Years. The Wonder Years run from 1988 to 1993 and centered around Kevin Arnold growing up, his family, and his life in high school. And there was one specific episode. It was called The Walkout. It was from season 2. It was episode 10. It aired March 7th, 1989. And they show Kevin in class, and they're choosing homeroom representatives. There's an election going on, and nobody wants to be a part of it. And of course, the teacher volunteers Kevin to be the rep for their homeroom. So later on, Kevin and all of the rest of the elected representatives go and they join committees and they have meetings to talk about what they're there to talk about. And all of the kids, a lot of the kids are talking, and they're only worried about things that are immediately affecting their personal lives and their worlds. They're talking about what ice cream should be in the cafeteria, stuff like that. Then a kid named Mark, played by Mark Manasseri, he comes up and brings up the idea of starting a protest or organizing a protest of a walkout in during school hours. So in choosing the different committees, Kevin chooses Mr. Tyler's committee to join, and that one was specifically about the walkout. And while they're there, they're all goofing around, learning magic, just talking. And Mark, the kid who started the whole walkout idea, in a very shy voice, he brings up, shouldn't we actually talk about the walkout and the protest? And Mr. Tyler is like, I was waiting for somebody to do that. Mr. Tyler was forcing the kids to think for themselves. The first thing he did was pointed to a kid who is very clearly not good at organizing his thoughts. Now, upon watching this, I believe that this kid Rusty may have dealt with ADHD or something like that, because when he's asked to talk about the walkout and how it should be organized, or at least started, he at first is like, I don't really know. And you can see he's fumbling with how to form his thoughts. He gives his thoughts, and then Mr. Tyler is proud of him. He makes him feel welcomed for sharing the thoughts that he did, which was really cool. He did it in a very smart way. And then he points to Paul Seaver, who is just another kid, but he points to Paul and he says, we know that you're smart enough to figure out how to start this. So, what are your thoughts? And Paul at first is like, I don't know. And he's like, no, you're in a crowd of friends. You can share what you think. And so Paul, in a moment, is like, we should start a petition. And right when he's about to second guess himself and say, maybe that's a dumb idea, the teacher is like, no, that's brilliant. Let's do it. So then all the kids start getting excited and they're signing petitions. And I love the 80s montage. All the kids talking to other kids in the hallway and in classrooms. And at some point, the principal comes into one of the classrooms while they're having a meeting. And he says, I want you to know that this walkout it's against all the rules of the school and against the country's rules. And he makes it a very strong push to fight against any kid walking out of a classroom during school hours. And he even states multiple times to kind of scare the kids, if you do that, you will be suspended and it will go on your permanent record. He says it a couple of times to scare them. And all the kids in the room, they all kind of look to Mr. Tyler. They say to him, what should we do? And he very, very intelligently says, you need to think for yourselves. What do you want? Yes, this is going to be a great thing, or can be a great thing, but it may cost you something. He says that it's easy to give a quarter if you're keeping a dollar at the same time. It's easy to do something while not sacrificing anything in the process. This might actually be the thing that you have to sacrifice something. It might be on your permanent record. You might get suspended. So think thoroughly before you make an action. And then they're all in class, and Kevin, in a moment of inspiration and pride, he starts thinking, I got to do this. And out of nowhere, nobody's moving. He stands up without asking. He walks out of the room, and everyone's like shocked, even the teacher. And then he immediately runs to the bathroom, and he's looking at himself saying, I can't believe this isn't going to happen. I can't believe that all of that was for nothing. And as he's talking about how bad he feels about everything, he hears a sound out in the hallway, and he walks out of the bathroom and sees that all the kids are going. They're actually walking out of the classrooms. And Kevin realizes he was the first one. He was the one that stood up first, and then other people saw him, and then they started going out, and it actually happened. They all go out onto the front lawn, and they start singing a song of peace. And he starts saying in narration, if we hadn't done this, we wouldn't have it on our permanent records, which I think is amazing, because sometimes we do have to sacrifice. And they all, as a group, decided they were going to make a sacrifice to show solidarity for peace. during the Vietnam War. Now, maybe they didn't change the world. Maybe nothing happened beyond their worlds, their lives, but it happened. And it did change them on a small and personal level for every one of those kids. They all, looking back years from then, will be able to say, we did stand up. We have it on our permanent record. We did get suspended. I don't know, maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but they did that for a cause. I think the biggest takeaway that I had from this episode was Mr. Tyler saying that we all need to think for ourselves and realize that there may be a sacrifice in standing up for a cause, for taking an action and actually following through with it, and to think thoroughly before doing it. Not everything is something worth sacrificing something for, but a lot of stuff is. His whole point was to think for yourselves and pay close attention. There was actually one moment where he asks the kid Mark to explain why he wants to stand up and do this, and the kid starts spouting off things that he had heard, as if he didn't understand what he was saying. And the teacher starts joking around, pretending to fall asleep, and then Mark is like, what are you doing? And he says, how about instead of just reciting what you've read or been told, tell me in your own words, why do you want to protest the war? And I love that. I love that. I hope more people, if they have something that they want to stand for, I hope that they will take the time to know about it, take the time to understand what the consequences are and what the topic, what the thing they're passionate about, what it really involves and is, and know it, so that when you are challenged with why do you stand for this, you're not just reciting something that you've been told or read as if it isn't real, but that you understand what you're saying and you can explain and tell it in your own words and know what you're talking about. I think this episode was very poignant during Vietnam, and it's very poignant and inspiring today. Tell me if you remember this episode. Please give it a rating on a scale from 1 to 22. Let's all try to remember to think for ourselves, to learn things on our own for whatever it is that we are standing for. I also ask you to do me a favor, take a look at the links on my bio. There's a lot of meaningful things there. I'm trying to start up my Patreon, so if anyone's willing to join and be a part of that, that would be amazing. I want to make a difference in this universe. And of course, as always, don't forget that nostalgia rules and you rock.